How's it going, Blamers? And welcome back to Blame It on Mel. Today's episode is one of the hardest stories I've ever had space for. It's about the kind of grief that no one prepares you for. When your children are still alive, but you're cut off with no explanation. Not a fight, not a goodbye, just complete silence. Today, Becky is sharing what it's like to lose all three of her children at once, without a single conversation. She also experienced the silence of a church community that she served and loved for decades. The pain and trauma are real, and she is not alone in this experience. Thank you, Becky, for your courage in coming here to share your story so that others that are walking in your path don't feel like they're alone.
Yes, no, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to share my story, and it's been actually a little bit healing in doing so. So I just hope that I can help others maybe feel a little bit of comfort.
Well, I know that it's actually called like parent alienation. Isn't there a description?
Parental alienation and then estrangement.
I do know people that have experienced this, but not to your extent.
After being with them their whole life, 25 years married, I knew there was deficiencies. There were things that were happening. There's always two sides to every story. That was my biggest fear at leaving, was that they might be angry. I just never anticipated them completely cutting me off.
Because you did the right thing. You were actually wanting to leave when your daughter was a baby, and you stayed really primarily for her, and you stayed up until she graduated from high school.
For me, in the situation that I was in, I felt that I would be doomed no matter which way, but at least if I stayed, I was able to give the children the opportunities, the least amount of tension, even though there was tension in the home. The one thing that brings me solace is that I know I did anything and everything that I could for them. So in doing that, I lost myself and I gave up things, for me and about me, and I gave my power away. Now that they're not in my lives and I don't have them currently, I don't have a regret in staying.
Let's go back to the beginning. You met your current, your husband, because technically you're still married, right? You're going through divorce.
I got married very young. I was born and raised in the church. Married 25 years. I left in June of 2024. The legal abuse is real. We're still going through a contentious divorce with restraining orders and things of that nature.
And it shouldn't have to be that way.
The thing that I had hoped and anticipated, and I even expressed, was that do what's right for the children. You cannot like me. That's fine. We can have disagreements, but to victimize, it's abuse on the children. And so it just becomes perplexing to me, even at a different level, that when you provided so much to have the disownment with no discussion, literally no discussion, is bewildering, to be honest.
So what was your marriage like? Maybe at the beginning, and we could talk about how it evolved.
So, at a young age, I felt grateful that someone that had these, checklists on this box was willing to love me, or so I thought. And so I thought that would be, what can go wrong? We are taught if you check the boxes and do what's right, God will make it work. Right?
Yeah, no, because you are taught that any two faithful Mormons can get married and be able to have a happy and fulfilled life.
Even if you knew each other a week or 5 years, you're taught God will provide, God will make it right. And honestly, it's just false, right? Clearly there needs to be an aspect of some sort in there, but that's not what all marriage is about. So I've come to learn.
And you got married in the temple, right?
Yes, got married in the temple, and I was a registered nurse at the time and I was working. But then as time moves on, it's, well, you should stay home. You need to provide. We are taught, and I will say the mother should stay home. They should be there. They should provide. They should do all of the things, take care of them, be there. And if we're lucky enough, and it's always luck, right? If we're lucky enough to be provided for, why would we complain? Why would we want to go out in the workforce? you're not a good mom if you are spending your time away from the home.
Well, it's not really that you were taught. I mean, we were told. We were told that this is what you're supposed to do. There's the family proclamation
Yes.
is a set of rules that you are supposed to follow that hangs on almost every single wall next to Jesus and
Yes.
and then also there's a picture of Jesus and there's a picture of
The proclamation.
yeah, the family proclamation, and then there's probably some temple somewhere, right?
Exactly.
Like those three are on a wall, and that is the guidelines. Like I was always taught that that was basically scripture, that was doctrine, basically prophecy that was
Yes.
given by a Mormon prophet. You probably know who it was. I don't. It says that the man is the person that is supposed to provide. So they're, in other words, they're the ones that are supposed to work, and the mom is supposed to stay in the home and raise the children, not have a job. It's an entire set of rules that we are told that we are supposed to follow. There is no choice. Sure, you can make a choice to do different, but you're not going to be in the celestial kingdom.
Your golden ticket will be tainted, and your spouse might not enjoy that, which mine did not.
I love that you call it you call it a golden ticket.
Yes. And so in our home specific, it was very, very regimented. I mean, we're talking family prayer every morning, family prayer every night, no matter who was in the home with us.
And so many people try, and it is absolutely impossible to wrangle all your kids, get them up early to do that. So then we just try to do it every night before bed, but it ended up being like a freaking wrestling match. So did we do it? No. But did we tell everyone when we did? Yes. Yes, we did. Everybody thought that we were this perfect little family that did it, but you were actually doing what we were all lying and saying that we're doing.
Yes. And on top of that, like we literally hung out as a family all the time, activities, dinners. So, but then it was also stated, well, we're not having family home evenings. So we need to addition. And I'm like, but we're together, right?
No, you're in it. It's a lot. That's why when 2020 happened and everything shut down, that's when everybody was able to take a step back and analyze things. Because when you are basically on a robot kind of a routine, and you're in it, you don't even have any extra time to even sit there and evaluate and be like, oh, maybe this is wrong.
When the children got older and they went to high school, their time changed, right? So then I was allowed to go to the gym 3 days a week at 7 a.m. That was always used as, well, your mother's at the gym, but I'm here doing scripture study with you.
You were never allowed to go to the gym?
It's never like, you're not allowed. It's, well, you're not here for this. And well, you're not here for that. And well, maybe you should be doing this, or maybe this should be. So it was always a roundabout that would make you feel guilt. And because if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing because I'm staying home, it's a coercive control. Manipulation.
It's very on brand to every Mormon husband, for sure. It's very on brand because they're not going to tell you you can't do something. But yes, you're right. They make you feel very guilty, and they will leverage your kids because this is supposed to be your job. You're supposed to be doing those things. And if you're not doing scripture study, you're not there, then you look bad. You are being forced. It is a form of manipulation.
No, it definitely is, right? But so since it's not blatant like that, then people could say, oh, it's not abuse or it's not controlling, but it is, right?
So you were a registered nurse, you start having babies. He tells you that you need to stay home.
So I was like, well, I still want to work. Okay, well, if you work, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take night shifts. Since you're a stay-at-home mom, you really shouldn't have a babysitter. You shouldn't have a nanny. You shouldn't have a cleaning like you shouldn't have these things because that's your job, because I'm allowing you to stay at home, financially providing for you to be at home. It became, I worked a few nights a week. I would work all night in labor and delivery, and then I would stay up all day and take care of the kids. And then when they had an hour nap, that's the only sleep I got. Once we moved to New Jersey, it was like impossible to work. The schedule's not going to provide, and you shouldn't be getting a babysitter to take care of your job.
So essentially, you're having to have 2 full-time jobs.
Yes, and or just you're not working anymore. I can provide for you. No woman has the things you have, the life you have, the facade that I was embarrassed as to, since I'm a very vocal person, how am I allowing these things to occur? You're in it. You're trying to raise your children. You're doing all the things you can for them.
So then eventually you had to quit.
Yes. So when I lived in Arizona, I worked like 2 nights a week.
Because it wasn't really about the money. What was it about you working? Like, why did you feel like you needed to work?
There's more purpose to me, right? It's part of my identity. So as you strip away your identity, then you are more submissive. So you're just there.
Being a housewife. Yeah. You were going to be the best housewife there was.
Yeah. I mean, let's be real. Like, in my mind, I'm like, you're providing for me so well. This is my job, right? But is that who I am? I had then essentially been called a workhorse. That was my great title. Like, nobody wants to be called a workhorse. That's not sexy. That's not loving, and it's not beautiful, and it's not anything I would have ever aspired to.
So at what point did your marriage turn to where you were unhappy or found yourself wanting something different?
Pretty much I knew kind of right away. Once we moved to New Jersey, I was completely secluded. Never wanted to live in New Jersey. I then was isolated from family, from friends, from anything and everything I knew. I was a West Coast girl. And then he became the bishop. And that added a whole nother layer to, like, I just tried to forget what was happening to me. So I lost myself and I just delved into the children, really. And that's my choice.
So when he was called to be the bishop, how did that go?
I think I was 31. Like my daughter was born. And so I had like a newborn. And then and at that time I was the primary president, mind you, first off.
So did they not release you when they called him to be the bishop?
So then they finally released me. So when we moved there, he immediately got put in the High Council.
Okay. So maybe explain what the High Council means.
Yes. So the High Council, they pick men in different areas. And so they kind of go to the wards. They're assigned a ward. And they're not with you at church any longer. They go to a different ward.
They're not they're not with their family.
They're not with their family.
They're supposed to go to another ward and they kind of oversee what's going on there.
Oversee and watch and make observations, and then they report back to the stake president, right?
Yeah, they're policing. So you've got 3 children. So you've got a baby and you are expected to also be the primary president and go to church by yourself
every week. And it's like a 30-40 minute drive each way to the church house.
And this is when church was 3 hours.
Yes. And they're like, at this point, like 5, 3, and 1. They didn't even know how to tie a tie. He was gone first thing in the morning, right? So it got so bad, I would bring them to church and another church member would tie their ties for them. So then it was right the day before Thanksgiving. We're super young. We get called into the stake president's office and he asks if my husband will be the bishop. And then he asked me, so, what are your thoughts, or are you supportive? And I said to him point blank, he's not worthy. And the stake president just kind of looked at me and laughed because he loved the family. He thinks the family's amazing, or I don't know what he thought. I'm only assuming. And that was it.
He didn't ask you for details or anything of why?
Nope, not one question.
Oh yeah, because he didn't want to. He was going to turn a blind eye. Like he didn't even hear you. Why was he not worthy?
Some situations that I could talk about at a later date, but probably not now, as to the happenings at home and the things that were being said at home that I was hiding. I was trying to hide from the kids and hide.
People can use their imagination. There's, if somebody's not worthy to become a bishop, there's usually a reason for it.
The family's amazing. The family's like an anchor. They do so much for so many people. He's doing so much for so many people. He's amazing. How could anyone not think anything otherwise, right? And I did a good job at making it look like that.
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
that's normal within the Mormon church is that people look really great from the outside and they
Yeah,
are doing all of the things that are in front of people like serving and helping and donating money and all of those
exactly.
things, but that doesn't mean that behind closed doors.
People are being treated properly.
But you
So
had to have felt very dismissed. It was the stake president, right, that you were speaking to?
it bothered me, but I was so inundated in taking care of the kids. It wasn't like a fight. I was willing to fight.
Well, you were probably also conditioned so, so hard at that point. Like the conditioning was so strong that you probably didn't even notice it.
That is true. And I had had some other run ins with previous bishops and authorities. Like some people feel bishop is close as almost to God, right? Like I didn't feel that. And I definitely knew that because mine is not, is not. So it just kind of was like another thing that once again, I'm being dismissed.
You're not an equal partner.
My opinion does not matter. It looked as though I was always fighting with him. My opinion never mattered. So I had to fight to get my opinion out, if that makes sense, and to advocate for the things that I knew that the kids need. They would see me argue with him, and it looked as though I'm fighting with him. And yes, I am fighting with him, but I'm fighting for them.
Did they know that? Did they know what you were fighting?
I'm sure not. I'm sure different situations, different times, but I tried every which way to communicate and literally no way worked. So, I mean, it's just what it is.
What types of things, for instance, would he fight you on?
So, like, for instance, when my son was going into high school playing football, always good at football. He had some great coaches, but they literally never won a game. The high school was not a good fit. The environment was not a good fit. And I knew that. A lot of people had the exact same opinions that I had about the school. So it wasn't like I was just being a snot or whatever.
So was this coming from his family or just people in the community? Like, I'm just trying to
be careful, but no, definitely his family. They all went to Ocean City High School. So for me to say, I need to look at options for my son. I need to look at
And
options for my son.
is this your oldest son?
This is my oldest.
Okay,
Yes.
so you're looking at it like you need to get your son in a better school that is going to help him progress in football because this is his passion. And did he have a desire to play at the next level?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you're like, I send him to this high school,
he's never going to be seen. Their team is at that time terrible.
It's important. We had to move our daughter her senior year to another high school for the same reason because
because the
school
recruits
she was
go
at
to
was so terrible. The coaches were so terrible. You never want to be the best player on the team. If you're the best player on the team, you need to go somewhere else.
If your coaches have no interest in sending the kids to the next level, reaching out to the recruits, it's never going to happen.
No, there's just a lot of connections, even if they have 7-on-7 programs during the summer for them to be able to send, video to scouts. You're not going to be able to go if you're not in a high school that has those connections.
Coaches reached out to us. We reached out to them. They invited us to the school, check out the school. There's a couple private schools in the area. The whole time in the house, it was a fight. It was an argument. It was, why are we doing this? This is not productive. Like, on and on and on and on, because it wasn't his idea. It was my idea. Any and every obstacle got brought to the table and it became the money thing. So the coach was like, what can we do to get your son here? We really want your son. And I was like, to be honest, it's too expensive. He gave us money. He gave us a scholarship. The enrollment admissions guy gave him a scholarship. He took a test because he's super brilliant. He scored the highest. So, I mean, I did all the things, right? Shout out to that school, St. Augustine Prep in Little Podunk, Richmond, New Jersey. It ended so well for my boys, both my boys. And it just was a fight for almost a year in the home.
So did your husband ever admit after seeing that it was a positive experience for both of your boys and it created so many amazing opportunities, did he ever admit or thank you?
Eventually, yes, he admitted that it was an amazing place for them. It was worth it for me to fight for them, but it shouldn't be a fight. It's both your children.
So then your oldest son, when he was being recruited for football, did he get to make any of his own decisions as far as like where he was going to go to school to play?
That was a little touchy. And it was, if you don't go to BYU, you are not valid. But it's your life. You need to make your decisions and you need to stick by your decisions. He chose BYU.
Did BYU give him an athletic scholarship?
He did get an academic scholarship through them. I'm not sure if they gave him money or not for football.
A lot of LDS families are very heavy on church schools. I mean that if you either go to, I mean, there's four church schools, right? There's like BYU, BYU Hawaii, BYU Idaho. If they don't go, my husband's family was like this. If you do not go to a church school, then we will not support you financially. We won't let you take the car. We won't like help you in any way. Is this similar to how your husband?
That was never said. However, again, it's the talk that you get from family members. Why would you go anywhere else? That's the best school. If you go there, if you don't go there, you will end up going to hell. If you don't go there, you're going to meet friends and you'll become a terrible individual because your friends will be living a normal life in drinking and having fun and maybe swearing or whatever, like all the things. And so the talk about it was, so it just was a lot. So it's kind of like, even too, as a child, how do you then go against that?
Did all three of your kids go to BYU?
Yes.
Even though it wasn't necessarily the best fit for all of them, because your daughter, right? She was a very accomplished equestrian jumper.
My middle son, perfect spot for him. Loved it.
Yeah. And to be clear, at this point, you're still faithful in the church.
For sure.
I mean, all of these things, like still. And
I'm the Relief Society president at this time.
Yeah.
Now.
So it isn't necessarily that you have anything against the church school, but just that it's not the best fit for your kid.
He's very smart. He wanted to go into baking. Out east is where all the banking is. Let's be real. And he came out without as far as I know, job. And he started working for his, I don't even know, to be honest, father, I think.
Yeah. So his opportunities would have been greater. He would have been in a better spot, better position, connections, all of those things if he would have chosen a school, not BYU.
Yes. For banking, for the connections, for the location, for sure. A thought. But then my daughter, 1000%, I was like, this is not the place for her at all. For her to go to a school where there is no equestrian program, there is no English writing, there's a couple Western barns, to have to sell her horse because her horse was a very high performance horse. So she would have to get rid of her horse. She wouldn't be able to ride. And this girl went to the barn every single day. It was her therapy. It was her love. It was her joy. It was everything for her. And so she had some opportunities. We took her to TCU. We took her to Baylor, even Dartmouth. And it was like, no, you need to go to BYU. You need to go to BYU. And we actually had a huge blowout, my spouse and I, over BYU. For her.
You were fighting for her, fighting for your kids. Because it sounds like, as hearing your story, you're never really fighting for yourself.
I kept trying different ways to make things work. And like, I just got to stop at every way I tried.
How were you guys with caffeine in the home? Like, was he strict orthodox with the caffeine? I already know the story, so I'm really just leading it. So,
well, listen, that's like a whole thing. So he used to drink Coke. He never drank alcohol like ever. He decided that Coke was bad. Well, I drank Diet Coke. I drank Diet Coke all the time. I'm like,
So
I
he
don't care,
decided that it was
whatever.
bad because of the caffeine in it?
Yes, because of the caffeine. And I swear, you got to get it out somehow. Like if you have a buildup in your body, you have to like release it. I drink Diet Coke, and then I'm like, Diet Coke is bad for you. It's got a lot of aspartame. I'm trying to be better. So I started drinking Celsius, and that was a huge problem. It was a huge problem. It was always a comment, a critique. He would be like, oh, but I bought it for you. But then he would bitch about it the whole time, right? So then I had to hide it, and then I'd had to hide it in the trash, and then I would have to hide it in my car, and like, so eventually when I left,
What do you mean that you had to hide it in the trash?
like he would go through the trash.
Sorry, what? He would go through the trash?
Yeah, inside the house, outside the house.
He would dumpster dive your trash that you put outside.
Yeah,
and check for Diet Coke and Celsius cans?
or I don't know, like whatever was on his mind. I mean, every day.
Did he ever find it?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was there.
Yeah. So what did that look like when he did find it? Like, did he just bring it in and he's like, "What is this?" Like, what? How did that go?
Or sometimes there would just be comments, and then too, I'd be like, "You're seriously going through the trash? Like, are you kidding me?" So then they would hear me yelling, saying, "You're going through the trash," because I can't control myself at that point, right? It's almost like they get you to respond so that you look like the mad crazy one. Well, I was. So basically when I left, literally it was a year. I finally stopped ish, sort of. A year. Every morning, do you want to know what I did? I got a Celsius and I got a box of Lucky Charms, and I would go back in my bed and I would take a handful of Lucky Charms and I would eat it and I would drink with Celsius.
What?
It was like a coping mechanism for me.
Wait, because did he not even want you eating sugar cereal?
That was never said, but no, we never had sugar cereal. And
listen, I just can't even imagine, like, if I was not able to work out and I couldn't have any sort of caffeine, I don't know how I would survive. How did you survive? Like, what?
I painted the walls. Yeah, that was my therapy.
What was your final straw? What made you finally decide I'm out? I can't do this anymore?
The occurrences that he was doing to me, I was like, my nervous system couldn't handle it anymore. I was shaking. I was throwing up. I just, my whole body was unsafe.
Did you feel like he was watching you, or?
Oh, he would follow me. He would, like, we would get in the car. He wouldn't stop. I would tell him to stop, just stop. I would open the door like I'm going to jump out of the car. Like, he wouldn't stop. And
like,
then
what was all of a sudden, like, wouldn't stop? What do you mean?
Berating. I call it berating. It's a variety. And I couldn't even tell you as to why. No reason why. Then we would get in public. It would stop instantly. So that's how I knew it was a choice. Because if you can immediately see our daughter and stop, or if we can all of a sudden, but it wasn't always in public that he would stop, because he's done it a lot in public. But if we can go to a venue and you just stop, then I know it's a choice. And then you start back in once you get in the car, right?
Well, so it sounds like to me that he was just breaking you down in private. And so that then when you were in front of other people, then you look like you were the crazy one. And
for sure.
He has it all together. Like, he is handling you basically. And
yes, because in his defense, we had an amazing lifestyle. Now I am knowing some of the financials, and it wasn't that amazing, but we had an amazing lifestyle. So how could you complain when you have these things? And he would say, no one can give you the life that I give you, but things are not happiness. Things are not everything, right?
Did anybody ever let him know that money can't buy happiness?
No, because when the show is everything to you, then that's the hollowness, right? They would see me distraught, right? You could tell I'd been crying, even though I was trying the best I could to not be that way.
You can't hide it. It's energy. Everybody can feel it. I mean, I've been there. I mean, we've had, arguments with me and my husband. We walk in somewhere and my friend's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "What? Of course, I'm fine. How can you tell?" But yeah, no, people can sense it.
Now that I have a little bit of a clearer head and I've done a lot of therapy and a lot of work, I can see how divorce is hard enough on children. So I'm owning that, right?
Even though your children are out of the house.
They're out of the house. Like I left
adults,
the weekend.
you sacrificed your own happiness and waited until all of your children were out of the house.
He didn't think that I would leave. Since we were married, he would say, you can leave with what you came with. You can leave. We should get divorced, like all the things.
Why would he say that? Like if you leave, go ahead. So, but you're not taking anything. Like I made all the money. Everything that you have is because of me. So you can leave with what you came with, which was nothing.
And that is another layer to, I will say, a lot of the church. You've now given up your career. You've now given up any attributes you have as an older woman now to try to find a job, right? You have no money. I mean, you share a bank account, but that's when you leave, all that disappears in a hot minute, right? Because it's not yours, it's his. So yeah, that's a huge fear. Like, how do you leave? If you have no money, how are you going to leave? But eventually I was like, you know what? I can't live like this. I'm sick. I'm physically ill. And that is 1,000% not me. So I booked a car shipper. I booked a plane ticket. I made him sign a lease in an apartment because I don't have a job. I can't prove income, but he thought that that would be like appeasing me. And so he did it. And then it was Father's Day weekend. I gave him some great gifts and my daughter had a horse show and I left the next day. I was so unwell. I could not use my words. I didn't even know what was happening to me or what was going through my mind. So I should have had a conversation with my children. But I didn't want him to know my real intent, right? Because it's a volatile situation. And then 2, I couldn't even say it out loud. I couldn't even admit it to myself. I was just like going through the steps.
Yeah. And the first time in your life, you were thinking about yourself and how you were going to survive. And everything else needed to just be able to be pushed aside because you needed to take care of yourself and survive this.
Exactly. Because as the last one left, I've said to him many times, I'm raw meat to you. The unhealthy part is the kids were used to diffuse the situation on me. So most of the time, if the kids were around, it was fine. We could have a nice dinner. We could talk or whatever, and it was fine. But as they started leaving the home and as the last one and the dynamics shifting and the control, he could tell the control was disintegrating, then it became a lot more ramped up. Now the mom left and now our perfect celestial being is no longer the perfect picture. I'm sure that was very upsetting to them.
Do you think that your kids feel like they were abandoned?
I know that they probably feel that because of what's been said to them.
But your second son was already on a mission, so he's gone.
Yeah.
And then your other son was at BYU, right? Still in college.
So in that summer, my whole point was I'll leave in the summer. I'll come back for their birthdays. I'll come back.
Did you have that conversation with your husband, or was this just something internally that you were telling yourself?
Yeah, with my husband.
So did you just tell him you were kind of taking a break, or what were you?
Yeah, I was just going to Vegas, because both the kids at home had jobs out of the home. Like they weren't even going to be home all summer. So I was like, why am I going to sit here day in and day out? Anytime I left the house, the phone was like nonstop. Where are you at? What are you doing? Why are you there? How come you're there? Who are you with? Blah, blah, blah. So it's not, I'm sitting at home all day, every day. So I said, why am I going to?
With your husband?
Mm-hmm.
He was checking up on you? What did he think you were doing? He was worried you were having an affair? Like, what was he worried about?
Well, that was always the conversation since 2006, which I never did.
Well, you do know what what those people are doing when they're constantly accusing their spouse of having an affair, and they're the ones that are worried about all of those things.
Exactly.
Usually they're the ones that are having an affair.
Correct. And I actually have since had physical proof, but I was so in it that never, I'm like, I have other problems, right? Like our love, there wasn't like this, like, we love each other so much. It's like transactional. I would say your mom arranged our marriage, basically. He held her hand when we got married and not mine. He wanted to have kids. And so I was the vehicle. I was the workhorse.
So you have this conversation. You're like, I'm going to Vegas, and I'll come back for their birthdays. And he's cool with that.
No, he's really not cool, but he kind of really has no choice. And he really didn't think I would really leave, because for 25 years, if you tell someone to leave and they don't, that's reassurance for them that you're not going to leave, right? It's almost like they throw it out there to see if it sticks. And then, oh, now she's good. We're good, because she's not. My son's on his mission. He's in a third world country. The last thing I want to do is upset him, right?
Well, and they teach you, right? Like they tell you not to give your missionary that's out any sort of bad news or anything like that, right? Like, so you really shouldn't even be contacting him and letting him know.
I never put it on anyone. My neighbors didn't know I left. Not one church member knew I left.
Did you think that you were going to get a divorce when you left, or what?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And so then when you surfaced after that month was over, and did you call or text your daughter, or how did that conversation go?
It wasn't that smooth. So I left in June. So I left on a Saturday, I think it was. I stayed with my girlfriend. I couldn't move into the apartment till Monday. Monday's P day. Monday's when we have our phone conversation with our missionary. So then we're on a phone call. I have like stuff in the car. I'm sitting in the car. I don't want to upset anyone, even though I'm like a mess. And I'm sitting having a family conversation, all FaceTime in the car of the parking lot of the apartment complex, pretending that everything's great. So in July, I went back for my birthday, and that's when it was really bad. There was an episode. I started a fight with my daughter, which I feel really bad about. As parents, usually if your child pops off, usually one of you, usually the other one says, okay, be nice, be respectful. We're not going to talk about that. Like something, right? No, he just sat back and like smiled. And then it's my birthday's July 4th. So we were going to watch the fireworks. We get in the boat. We're stuck in the boat. We pretend everything's fine. We all look at each other like, what just happened?
So did you stay at the house, or did you stay at a hotel?
Yeah. So I was at the house.
Same bedrooms, different bedrooms?
Oh, no, we had not been sleeping in the same bedroom for a long time.
Oh, before you left?
Yeah, because he snored. And so that was my out to be like, you snore, so you need to go somewhere else. That morning, he called his friend who's an attorney and told him what was going on. Later that night, we go on the boardwalk to have ice cream or whatever. And we meet up with his friends, and they're both attorneys. One's a divorce attorney and one works in the law office with him. And it was a whole setup. She took me aside. The boys went a different way, and she's asking me all about my marriage and my problem. And I'm like, I don't want to be talking to this with her and or with literally anyone. I'm embarrassed. It's a failure, like all the shame with it, right? That night, I confronted him and I said, you bamboozled me. Like that was a full setup. Why would I come back for you to constantly berate me, follow me through the house, set me up?
So he was wanting you to come back to the marriage?
Yeah. So after that, I was like, it's not safe for me at all. I cannot come back. He somehow finagled my children to come back and work from home. Now they're there. Where's mom? Mom left us. Mom's not here. Mom is in Vegas. Mom's living her life. He called and or had a conversation with my son on his mission. The things that he said to my son made my son so upset that he called his cousin, who he does not speak to very often at all. And those are the church rules. Like you're not allowed to speak to anyone other than immediate family members, right? So he called her and he said, Don't believe my mom. She was never abused and she's been having an affair.
So now it's been spun. So now you're the cheater, even though he's the cheater. Why do you think that he chose to call his cousin?
He may have called a lot of other people. That was the only person who told me. Like, since I've left, not one family member, not one that has texted, called, emailed, nothing.
So I can imagine that your kids are all thinking, okay, well, mom cheated on me, had an affair. She ran off to Vegas to be with her boyfriend.
Yeah, which is 100% not.
That is an easy story for him to look like he's a victim, to get everybody on his side, even though he's the cheater.
Because how dare you leave me? But here's the thing too, that I'm like, anybody who knew me knows I was an amazing mother. And they are my life. And so he needed to make sure he took them away from me and took money away from me. Anyone who knows me knows I would not just leave. There's got to be a reason why. It has to be pretty darn bad, right?
But the other flip side is that the picture also makes sense if he says, well, she has been cheating on me and she's moving in with her boyfriend or moving to Vegas because he must be from Vegas. That's the only thing I can think of to try to like understand why your kids are thinking poorly about you, especially if you know that they were told that you had an affair, which you did not.
Which I did not. And why wouldn't, they're adults, right? Why wouldn't at least one of them call me up and be like, you piece of shit, what are you doing? I hate you. I can't stand you. Why did you do that? Like, there's been no conversation about it. I spent Christmas with my two kids. We had a great time.
This is in the same year, right? So this is Christmas time of the same year. You left in June, so approximately 6 months.
And in that time, I went to Provo when, they moved into college.
Your daughter.
To be with them.
Your daughter went her freshman year to BYU.
Her freshman year. And my son, at that point, I told him he needed to go to counseling. So he was going to counseling. And even the counselor had said, you've abused your wife so much that she's physically ill. So he actually admitted that to me and said that to me. So I said, if you want to save our marriage, you will tell the children this. So we did. They sat down. He told the kids. And at first he made it like a ho-hum. So I looked at him like, I'm going to kill you. Say it. And then he did say it. They didn't like hearing it, but he did say that he was making me physically ill. So he admitted himself. So in September, I drove to Provo to spend time with them.
So all three of your kids are at BYU at this point?
No. So the one's still on his mission.
So your middle son, he never went to college. He went directly onto his mission?
No, he went 1 year first.
At BYU?
At BYU. And then went. Because I was like, it's cruel to send a kid straight from graduation of high school to somewhere.
Oh, yeah, but they have to do that because they're losing too many within that year. So they need to do it right away.
When we were at the recruiting visit at BYU, I was the only one whose son was not going on a mission. And the moms were telling me, no, he has to. And I was like, no, he doesn't. He doesn't have to. A, he doesn't have to go on a mission. And B, he doesn't have to go on a mission straight from high school.
100%.
So I went to see them, to talk to them, to try to explain myself because I'm feeling a little bit more stable, a little bit more healthy. The first conversation did not go well. The second conversation was better. Apparently, all of the holiday travel schedule was already made for them without even notifying me.
To go to their dad's?
To go to New Jersey. She had a huge horse show in October in Maryland. So I was still playing nice because I didn't want to miss her horse show, right? So we're all there in Maryland. Then after that, they went there for Thanksgiving and then they went there for Christmas.
So did your kids just think that you were working on your marriage? You guys were just separated and
honestly, so emotions, so the big thing that I did not do well in teaching my children was emotional expression. If I can't express my emotions, if I don't know how to express them, I can't teach them and it's not a safe place for them to express them either. So I didn't teach them that very well. So, because with the other person, anger was the emotion. And I said, you really should get marital counseling before you get married. Like, it's a deficiency that we have.
Oh yeah, and you should date somebody for a lot of years too. You should do that.
Yeah. So, So basically, I said, listen, I'm not going to New Jersey. So I said, if I come to New York, will you meet me the day after Christmas? And so they said yes. So they drove. They met me. We went to. Meanwhile, I have no money at this point. Like, I'm completely cut off. Like.
All right, blamers, that's another shot of truth with no chaser. If you made it this far, I love you for it. If you're offended, it's probably because it hit home. Make sure you hit follow so you don't miss the next episode. Share this one with your friends, your ex, your therapist, whoever needs to hear it. And tag me at Blame It on Mel so I can see who's taking the blame with me. Until next time, keep it real, keep it raw, and if all else fails, just blame Mel.